Welcome to Women's Sports Weekly, where women's sports happen every day, but we talk about it once a week. I'm Danielle.
And I'm Carolyn. Women's Sports Weekly is a podcast where we discuss the latest news, explore interesting stories, and share our love for women's sports. Follow us on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok at WomensSportsWeeklyPod. Follow us and rate us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Send us an email at WomensSportsWeeklyPod@gmail.com, and we may feature your email on the Listener Experience Zone, The Les. It's a crazy time in our house.
When is it not a crazy time in our house?
We have been demoing, then we have been scared to demo because of asbestos, and then we have continued on.
Well, we don't know if we have asbestos, but we had a freak out that we could have asbestos, and, you know, it's just the joys of being a homeowner.
Every time we open into a new wall in our house, the horrors persist.
What are you going to do? You're going to give up on me?
I'm not going to give up on you, but I really hope this is all worth it.
It will be when we're sitting in that basement with a big TV mounted on the wall watching. I think it'll be great.
And that will become our studio too.
Yeah, so, that's exciting.
Yes, we're pretty much doing this for you all. We are building a new basement so we can have a better studio for all of you.
Yeah, let's be honest. It's for us. Let's be honest.
It's mostly for us.
But it will be pretty sweet.
Yes, I agree. It's going to make a huge difference.
Besides the craziness in our house, it's been lovely here in Denver. Beautiful weather outside. We watched Game 2 of the WNBA Finals outside on our back patio, which we also built ourselves, just saying. And every time I'm out there, I'm like, it feels so good to be out here knowing we did this. We made this backyard like this.
You do love that.
I do. I get super excited about that.
I would get the same joy if I paid someone to do it. I'd be like, yes, I paid for this.
That's where you and I differ very much. My pride and joy is knowing I did something and then I'm there and I'm like, wow, this is pretty sweet.
Yeah, my pride and joy is just a nice sight that's complete. But fall time is just the best time for sports. It's my favorite time to watch. This past Sunday, I went for a walk, and the entire walk, I was watching the Washington Spirit San Diego Wave game, which we'll get into. And it was just like so nice. And I do still enjoy my walk. I don't want you to think I have my head buried in my phone, but it is nice to be in cooler air. I don't know. There's just something about it.
We actually, I'm going to say we played some soccer during our walk on Saturday too, because Carolyn and I are walking Scout and just a normal walk of ours. And we randomly see this golf ball in the middle of the sidewalk. And I was thinking in my head, ooh, I'm going to kick that. And then all of a sudden you go, kick it. And I was like, I am. It wasn't just one kick. We kicked this golf ball over a mile back and forth, like not just passed it to one another. We would kick it as far as we could. And then the next person would go and kick it as far as they could. And there were a few times we thought we were losing the golf ball and somehow it always came back to us. It made it all the way home. So that was our inner child, I think. We were both just like, we're going to get this ball home.
So if you saw us in Denver this past weekend, kicking around a golf ball, like we were so happy. We were kicking it across the street. Our poor dog, it's her walk.
Yeah.
We turned it into our walk. It took us 45 minutes to go a mile and a half, which is not usually how long it takes. But we were having so much fun.
So much fun. And I was picturing it as like mini golf because it would bounce off the side of a wall and come flying back at us or hit off of Scout's legs, not hard, I promise, and come back or go through her legs. And we were just children on that walk.
It was really awesome. I think of how much of my childhood, and my brother used to do this all the time. He would just throw a ball against a wall or he would throw it up on the roof and catch it. And like we did that all the time. And when you're bored, things just happen. And we didn't have our phones on the walk, just kick the golf ball around. And we saw our neighbors after, and I'm like, we just kicked this golf ball the entire block.
I just love that we were both so invested too, like the same amount of invested in that golf ball.
We're on the same page.
Another thing that happened this past weekend is it was pretty surreal listening to Ryan Rucco on Sue Bird's Bird's Eye View podcast.
I've said this before, but I do think Sue Bird takes some notes from us because Okay, so January 2024, there were not a ton of women's sports podcasts. And we were like, all right, we're going to have some niche here. Little did we know that everyone was starting their women's sports podcast in January of 2024. But that's fine. But married couple, going to talk about Sports Weekly. And we started first. And then Sue and Megan have their podcast. And then we have Ryan Rucco on, our friend Ryan Rucco. And then Sue does. And we're like, I think she might be taking some notes from us.
So now I need to say we should have a petition to get Sue Bird on the podcast and do a collab.
I think it's only right. We have a mutual friend. I love that we're calling Ryan Rucco our friend. But I think she should now come on Women's Sports Weekly and we can chop it up and we can finally settle whether she's taking notes from us.
Yeah, Sue and Megan. We want Sue Bird and Megan Rapinoe on the pod. I think our listeners would freaking love that too. So Megan and Sue, please come on Women's Sports Weekly. We would love to have you.
And if you all don't want to come on here, we will very gladly hop on to a touch more. No problem.
Yeah, no problem. We'll be happy to.
Let's get into the highlight reel for this week.
Let's do it.
As I mentioned, I watched the Washington Spirit take on the San Diego Wave this past weekend. The Washington Spirit beat the San Diego Wave 2-1 on Sunday, and it was an exciting match. So Rose Kawasi for the Washington Spirit scored first in the 9th minute, and it was off of a sweet header. It just went right in. So Washington Spirit were up, and honestly, they had pressure on the San Diego Wave the entire game. It seemed like it could have been 3 or 4-0 Washington Spirit for this match, but the Washington Spirit just couldn't find another goal.
Yeah, I didn't watch the whole match here. I was doing stuff around the house, but I did see a shot Trinity Rodman took. It was a sick shot. Literally tipped off the goalie, hit the far goal post, and I literally still thought it was going to make its way in, and it didn't. And you could just see the distress on her face because it was so close. So I see what you mean. It's so frustrating when you have so many shots on goal and they just will not go in.
And all the credit in the world to San Diego goalie Kaylin Sheridan, who blocked everything. She really prevented it from being 3 or 4-0 in this match.
Even the goal I'm talking about, it was a 6 save. I didn't even mention that piece. The way she deflected it off, it was really good.
So we get into the second half, we get into stoppage time, and I'm like, okay, it's going to be 1-0. And San Diego Wave comes back and they score from a goal from Delphine Cascarino in the 5th minute of stoppage time.
Wow.
So she scores for the San Diego Wave, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's going to end in a tie. That stinks for Washington Spirit. They had pressure on the whole game, but this is going to end with 1 point for each team and not with 3 points for the Washington Spirit. But the Washington Spirit immediately respond with my favorite shot, because it's not a shot, it was a cross, from once again Rose Kawasi in the 8th minute of stoppage time. She crosses this ball and then it just goes into the back of the net, and she'll probably say it was a shot. That's what they usually do, but allows the Washington Spirit to go up 2-1 and they win this match.
That's sick. That's awesome. It's kind of like in basketball when someone airballs and says it was a pass.
Well, sometimes the air ball is picked up and it was a pass and then the person gets a layup. And for that, I agree with them. But this allows the Washington Spirit to remain unbeaten for 11 games and get their 3 points. They've already clinched a spot in the playoffs, but they're working on getting a top 4 seed so they can be home in the quarterfinals as well.
That's exciting. It's fun that WNBA finals are happening and then soccer's gearing up for their playoffs. The fun never stops.
It doesn't. I love it so much.
Same. Speaking of WNBA finals, before we get into the games, so last week we addressed Nafisa Collier's press conference about the comments made by Commissioner Cathy Engelbert. And Cathy Engelbert had a press conference before game 1 on Friday night. And of course, she started off, she was just trying to keep it strictly to talking about the finals. But of course, the media were ready to get their teeth in her. And they did ask some questions about what Nafisa had to say. Carolyn, how bad was I cringing during this?
It was tough to watch. So the facts is that Cathy Engelbert said that there was an inaccuracy in what Nafisa said, but she didn't go into detail of what wasn't true.
Inaccuracy, she blatantly said, I obviously didn't say that.
She did end up saying that. So when they asked about Caitlin Clark and the comments made about Caitlin Clark, she said, obviously, I did not make those comments.
And this was after several other questions had been asked where she tried to deflect. And when it came to that, she clearly wanted these questions to stop and just went the route of, obviously, I didn't say it, which, ooh, Cathy, you're just digging yourself in a bigger hole.
I know. And like deflecting about how much pain this has caused her family.
Yeah. And this might be an unpopular opinion, and I'm not agreeing with Cathy at all. I 100% believe Nafisa that Cathy said those things, and yet I still felt bad for Cathy watching her take these questions. It made me so uncomfortable, and I was like, I can't even look at her because I feel terrible. I don't know why she said these things, and yet here I am watching this press conference cringing and being like, oh, this is sad to watch.
It's sad to watch because you have to watch someone lie. And what I wish she would have done is just plead the fifth, right?
Or say no comment.
That's what I mean. Say no comment, because now you're putting yourself in a position where I believe you're lying, and then you're making Nafisa look bad on top of that. And then to deflect and talk about your family, it's a little frustrating to me because she was the person who fed into the Angel Reese, Caitlin Clark rivalry, said that it was great for the game. Meanwhile, people were attacking Angel Reese for the most disgusting things, layered in so much racism, so much misogyny. And it's like, well, Angel Reese has a family too, and you didn't really think about that when you were doing that. And her comments to Nafisa were very egotistical, and it felt egotistical here, like, what about me?
I agree with all the points you're making. And the players have obviously been trying to get to Cathy in a different way, right? Nafisa didn't just all of a sudden decide she's going to do a press conference without trying to speak to Cathy. The coaches who keep getting fined about talking about the refs, these were continuous cries for help, and nothing was being addressed, and Cathy kept sweeping it under the rug or saying brutal comments, and it came down to this, and now she's in a position where she's trying to defend herself and making everything worse. And it is uncomfortable to watch.
It is uncomfortable to watch. It's like watching a sinking ship and you're like, oh no, you just keep putting that foot in your mouth. You keep digging that hole deeper. I don't know. And it was rough.
Yeah. And she said during the press conference, Nafisa and I are going to meet. So that was blatantly said on the press conference, like they had a meeting set up. And then not too long after that, after her comments, sources were blowing up saying Nafisa canceled the meeting with Cathy. And it's like, yeah, you just said, obviously I didn't say that. You're making Nafisa look like a liar. Why would she meet with you?
Exactly. And like, again, exactly what Nafisa said, taking accountability. You are not taking accountability. And she very well could have went into that meeting and they could have said, did you say those things about Caitlin Clark? Did you say that Caitlin Clark should be on her knees thanking her pretty stars, whatever. And she could have said no comment, right? Which then we would have all known that she did say those things, which we already do know. Yeah. And then that would have been a step towards accountability of like, I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to incriminate myself so you all can rip me apart, but I'm going to move forward from that. And it would have been inferred that you said it. But to go up there and be like, I didn't make those comments, there were inaccuracies, that's not taking accountability.
Yeah, not at all. And it's just a rough time. Players are still trying to play. They're fighting for the finals. The CBA is still not negotiated. She claims everyone's going to be very happy, but you haven't answered to anyone's issues. The players have already said the first round of negotiations were terrible. And it's confusing. It's like, okay, Cathy, what are we doing here?
Yeah. And the players are going to get paid more. Cathy Engelbert is a good business person. Is she a good people person?
No.
The answer is no.
She has made that very clear, and the players have made that very clear.
And I know she represents the owners, and I know that's her primary job, but you're not doing a great job because now no one has trust in you.
Yeah.
No one has trust that they have your back, and you make everything about yourself. And I know it has been hard for your family. I'm sure this has been the worst week of your life. You said those things. Maybe you were like 3 glasses of Chardonnay deep. That's what I picture in my head. But like, you have to take accountability for it when you mess up. That's what your kids need to see. You take accountability when you mess up and say the wrong thing, and then say, I'm going to repair those relationships. We're going to get through this transformative CBA, and then you'll never have to see me again, which is probably what's going to happen.
You mentioned Chardonnay. Are you trying to call her Chardonnay Cathy?
Chardonnay Shelly.
Chardonnay Cathy. Anyways, it is hard to watch. It's hard to watch on all ends. We want to see the players happy. We want a commissioner that respects the players and actually shows it. And I think the next few weeks are only going to get harder for Cathy, unfortunately. And I think she could have, like you said, gained some more respect by just fessing up and moving on. But It's going to be tricky, and I don't even know what's going to happen in weeks to come, but not looking good.
Yeah. I said she could have said no comment, and we would have assumed. She also could have said, I take accountability for the words that I said. And she never had to answer, like, did you say those things? I take accountability for the words that I said. I'm here to move forward and make things better with the players that I'm serving. Who's her PR? Let me be the PR.
As you're saying that, I was literally just going to say you should be your head of PR.
Oh, man, call me Cathy. I love old white women. I help my mom all the time.
Jeez.
All right, let's talk about game 1.
Yeah, staying on the WNBA train. First 2 games have been played. And the Aces, baby, 2-0. We'll talk about game 1 first. So I don't know if we vocalize this on the podcast, but of course, Carolyn and I are not rooting for the same teams because that's just how it is these days. Carolyn is rooting for the Mercury.
Okay, but I have a confession. I do find myself hoping that the Aces win.
Then why do you tell me you're...
I don't know. I want it for Alyssa Thomas and Kalia Copper.
Yeah, it's not that I don't like the players on the Mercury. I think I just love the players on the Aces.
Yes, that's true.
But whatever, Carolyn. Now you're joining the bandwagon now that Vegas is up 2-0. Now you're changing your allegiance.
That's right.
Anyways, this was a really close game. Back and forth. I 1000% thought Mercury was going to win this first game. Vegas ended up pulling this out 89-86. I'm going to say Vegas's bench won this game.
For sure.
Dana Evans, friggin' unconscious.
I love her.
And she's always a little spark plug on the floor, always fun to watch. But this game, you could just tell, what's that called? She hit her flow. Like, she was just so in it. The crowd was going nuts. Both games were played at Vegas. She scored 21 points off the bench. 15 of those points were off 3-pointers, so she had 5 threes. 3 of those threes were made in the final 8 minutes of that game.
Oh my gosh.
Final 8 minutes. So she was out of her mind. She came up clutch at the right times. And I think the energy in that arena was just unbelievable. And she was a huge reason for that. 21 points. That also means she matched A'ja Wilson's game high because she also had 21 points. And then Kalia Copper for the Mercury also had 21 points.
I hope people were playing the number 21 in Vegas that night. That was the number.
Jewell Loyd, so not just Dana Evans, Jewell Loyd also had a monster game off the bench with 18 points.
We need that from Jewell.
Yeah, I don't remember the exact stats, but her playoff points haven't been great, and she just went off this game for 18, and she was also in flow state, like you could tell. There was a point in this game where both teams could not be stopped from the 3. It was insane to watch.
Our friend Ryan Rucco and proxy friend Rebecca Lobo were like, this is such great basketball that we're seeing. And we're like, yeah. Also, what happens is that Danielle and I will say something, mostly Danielle, and then Ryan Rucco or Rebecca Lobo will say the exact same thing, and we'll just high five the entire time. We're like, yes.
Yeah, I'm always like 2 seconds ahead of them, and I'm like, oh my God, I just said that. But fun to see Jewell playing well, and Jewell and Dana are the first pair of teammates with at least 15 points as subs. So coming off the bench in a finals game since 2019. And like I said, I just think they were the key to this game, coming off the bench and scoring all those points.
Dana Evans did the post-game interview. Hair flawless, face
I know.
flawless.
It looks like she just came from a beauty salon. I'm like, what is happening?
Beauty salon. I love how old you are sometimes. Who goes to a beauty salon?
What would you call it?
I don't know. But she also wasn't even out of breath. And she was just like, yeah, hi. Just giving her post-game interview. It was awesome.
But there's also some other factors outside of the bench play that I just mentioned that were in the Aces' favor. I think, and I said this during the game right after it happened. So Satu Sabally gets a foul. Mm-hmm. She takes the ball and slams the ball and it goes flying to the sky.
That's a Danielle Brogan move.
I will say, I did this junior year of high school. I'll never forget. It was at Ridgewood High School. I don't even think I committed the foul. Someone else on my team did something and the ref called something. I was just like pissed because it was a close game similar to this. Tension was high.
It was similar to the WNBA finals.
Yeah. So, tension was high. I took the ball and slammed it and walked away. Technical. You know my dad. Frank, not happy.
No.
Frank was not happy. Dad, I know you're listening. You probably remember this like it was yesterday. Boy, did I get a talking to on the way home.
As you should. That's not what you should be doing.
So anyways, back to this game. Satu Sabally slams the ball on the ground. The ref immediately tees her up.
Yep.
So now she has foul number 4, regular foul. Technical, foul number 5. So then the Aces are shooting foul shots. Satu comes out of the game for I don't remember how long.
Yeah.
But I felt like the air was deflated out of the Mercury's play in that moment.
And Alyssa Thomas
was pissed.
It was like, what are you doing? Like,
Pissed.
come on. And because you just know. You already had the foul, and now you gave yourself another foul, and now you're out of the game, and we need you in here.
And this is another moment where I felt so bad for her because I'm like, I know that feeling when you're just so frustrated, you just do something and you're obviously not thinking. So I felt bad for Satu because I said to you in that moment, if they lose this game, she's going to look back on this moment. The team is going to look back on this moment. It was a turning point.
For sure.
So I firmly believe that. Another thing, Phoenix were outshot from the foul line 20-13. So in a 3-point game, foul shots matter. The roughest foul shots were when Alyssa Thomas had 2. They were down by 1. She went to the line to shoot 2 and missed both.
Yeah. She also, was her hand hurting that game?
She was cringing a lot.
And her shoulder's not attached to her. Her foul line percentage is not good.
I think they said it was like 69% in playoffs.
Great number.
It's better than 0.
Rough to have as your foul shot percentage.
Yeah. But then after that, Aces scored again, went up 3, and Phoenix could not get a shot off at the end. Kia Stokes, man, comes in for 2 seconds, not even, and she played great defense.
That's what she does.
And you know what? I laugh, but I'll give her credit because this girl sitting the whole game, there's 2 seconds left on the clock. Your number's called. She's ready to go. Yeah. And she was all smiles after the game. Like, that says a lot about a person. So pretty cool to see that too.
For sure. Game 2 was a totally different feel.
Yeah. The first half was back and forth again. Both teams are keeping it close. And then the second half starts and I'm like, the Aces are just in full control. Chelsea Gray had so many dimes, the backdoor cuts, the passes, the amount of time she did the cinema reel, which is her go-to. I was like, she is just so freaking fun to watch.
She is. And she's like history in the making. She's one of the best point guards to ever play this game. And yeah, anytime you get to see her do an amazing pass with some backspin on it, you're like, how the heck did that happen?
Yeah. So she's awesome. Jackie Young, we've talked about her. She's been playing out of her mind in the playoffs. She broke a record for the most points in a quarter in finals history. She had 21 points in the third quarter. 21 points in a quarter. At the end of the third quarter, she had 30 points. She ended the game with 32 points, which tied her playoff career high. So she's done this before. Like, Jackie Young, I feel like I don't want to say she's underrated because she's been on Team USA. People know who she is, but she kind of does fly under the radar sometimes. And I don't think people realize how good she is.
For sure.
And then Asia Wilson was also on fire and added 28 points, 14 rebounds, 3 assists. And it's interesting. Game 1, I talked about the pair of subs coming off the bench scoring points. This duo, Jackie and Asia, combined for 60 points, which is the second most by a pair of teammates in finals game in league history. So it's just cool to see these different records being broken or tied
and different players. That's great for the Aces for people to be coming into form right now.
Yeah, I would say so. And then Chelsea Gray, who we just talked about, added 10 points, 8 rebounds, and 10 assists. Yeah, we saw a lot of those and we're like, holy crap. 3 steals and 3 blocks. So talk about a nice ass stat line. She had a nice day.
Almost a triple-double.
I know. If she had 2 more rebounds, she would have had it. Kalia Copper continues to be a strong scorer for the Mercury. She added 23 points, but once again, wasn't enough. Satu Sabli, I felt like she struggled in the first half.
Her shooting percentage was poor.
And she just wasn't finding good shots. She was just off. And somehow she still ended the game with 22 points. She definitely started playing better during the third quarter. And then Alyssa Thomas, unfortunately for her, struggled with some fouls in the game and only had 10 points, 6 rebounds, and 5 assists. And I say only because she usually contributes more. So I don't mean that in like, oh, only.
And they need
for her.
Yeah, they need more from her if they want to stay in this finals.
Yeah, and they shot terribly from the 3 in game 2. They were 5 for 28 from the 3-point line in this game.
Yeah, that would be like me, and I would be happy with that stat.
Oh, no.
But I think that was probably what I was shooting in high school.
Yikes. Yeah, tell people what you used to do in high school.
The moment I stepped over half court, I thought I was Caitlin Clark. Before she was even alive, probably. I was looking up at the rim. Listen, I've talked about my high school team before. We were freaking horrible. So
I just wish I can get in a time machine, go back and sit in the stands at one of your high school games and just see this in action.
Oh my God. My dad would be covering his eyes. He'd be like, oh my gosh, not my daughter.
I'll come watch that. And then you could come watch me slamming balls. And when I was a goalie in high school, I would punch the goalposts and punch the ground every time a ball went in. And my coach was like, you are going to break your hands. So we could see each other in action if we get in time travel.
See ourselves embarrass ourselves.
Man, high school, rough times.
We learn, right? You embarrass yourself then, so you do it less when you're an adult.
Yeah, hopefully.
Kind of. I still embarrass myself now.
So that's it for the first 2 games of the finals. Next game, and I'll talk about this in my looking forward, but is tonight. So get ready to watch. It's going to be at Phoenix. So what do you think? You think they could pull one off at home?
I don't know. They got to pull one off at home.
They got to get their act together.
I'm like, it might be Vegas in 4.
We'll see. You never know. You never know. We'll wrap up our WNBA talk for now. And we have some ads to go through. And not only ads, we have to talk about Run Club and then a little ad.
Run Club's an ad.
Yeah.
We have Run Club every Thursday, starting at 6 p.m. at the 99ers. We run 3 miles and then we get some drinks at the bar. Please come if you live in the Denver area and run some miles with us. It is very fun. It's a very fun crew. If you run with us, you can get 50% off your first draft with this secret word. And the secret word for this week is ref.
That's a good one.
Yeah, it's a good one because we're going to get into refereeing. So before we do that, we do have to get into our ad where we ask you to please rate and subscribe to our podcast. We love putting this podcast together and want to continue to do it. We create, produce, and edit the podcast ourselves. If you want to support us, rate, subscribe, give us a positive review, and share it with the people you love. Share it with your friend, Ryan Rucco.
Seriously, though, even if you share it with one person, it goes a long way. So please spread the love. We love our listeners. We want to continue to grow this thing.
Yeah,
Thanks
we do.
in advance.
Thank you to everyone who has rated the podcast already. If you send us a screenshot of your 5-star rating, either through DM or through our email at WomensSportsWeeklyPod@gmail.com, we will send you a Women's Sports Weekly sticker for free. And I even write a little handwritten note in it and tell you how much I love you. Okay, so let's get into WNBA reffing. That's our deep dive for this week. And we've got a lot of information on it.
And if you've been paying attention to the W at all, this is a very hot topic.
So we're going to get into how do you become a ref? What does it take? How do you get paid? All of that stuff. So hopefully this gives some context to what we're working with in the WNBA. So every aspiring WNBA official has to spend time in the NBA's G League. In the NBA's G League, they're evaluated on their knowledge of the rules and their ability to operate as part of the 3-person officiating crew. To get into the G League, there are between 3,000 and 4,000 officials who are whittled down to a dozen to make it into the G League. Yeah.
4,000 people are trying to get into the G League.
Which makes me sad because
whoa. What is that percentage?
I know. That's very
Less
low.
than 1?
I don't know. I didn't
Any
do
math
the math
whiz, go ahead. Okay.
So then they spend time in the G League and the NBA, and then they're evaluated and then recommended for hire in the WNBA or the NBA.
Oh, so what you're saying is the WNBA get the ones who don't make it to the NBA.
They don't tell us that.
It's implied.
It is implied. We don't know the difference between who makes it to the WNBA and who makes it to the NBA. But when we get into pay, there are huge pay discrepancies. So we can assume that the better performers, the more experienced referees go into the NBA, and the not as good ones, not even not as good, but the ones who are not, I don't know. I guess
the same caliber. Yeah. Listen, are they good? Yeah. They were a dozen out of almost 4,000, but then they're not as good as the other ones.
Yes. And we'll get into that of why we think that is happening.
You just said it, the pay.
The pay. Yes.
That's a great reason why.
So just to set the scene, this is not the first time we've talked about reffing in the WNBA. If you remember last year in the finals when the New York Liberty were playing the Minnesota Lynx, it was Game 5, and there was a very controversial call against co-defensive player of the year, Alana Smith, on the Minnesota Lynx that gave the Liberty, Brianna Stewart 2 free throws. Breanna Stewart ends up sending that game into overtime, which then the Liberty win, and the Liberty end up winning the entire series because game 5 was a deciding game. It was a really rough call. Cheryl Reeve, she's always got something to say. She had a lot to say after that game.
Sure.
Oh, she had a lot to say. And at that point, she called for a third-party review to review calls.
And I just want to pause there. I just am thinking through Cathy Engelbert's press conference that we talked about earlier. Cathy mentioned the refs because obviously it's a hot topic. Everyone's been talking about it. And she was saying that every single call in the games gets reviewed. Every call and every no call, she was saying, gets reviewed after the game, and the refs are evaluated. I did not know that. That's pretty crazy.
Yeah, and we'll talk a little bit about that, of how they are evaluated. But before we get into that, I want to talk about this competition committee, which is a horrible name, but this is what they're called. So according to the head of WNBA officiating, referees don't make decisions about the style of play or the interpretation of the rules. They are actually provided that information. There is this competition committee made up of coaches, governors, and general managers. I don't know what kind of governors. Are they state governors? Probably not. And that competition committee dictates the state of the game. So they explore things like proper freedom of movement, balancing offense and defense, and then they recommend rule changes and standards to the Board of Governors, which Cathy Engelbert is part of that. So the referees simply take the agreed upon rules and the way that this competition committee says that they should officiate a game, and they try to implement that consistently. And so we'll talk about the consistency, but like, they're not deciding how physical the game is. They're being told this is the physicality we want in the game.
What?
Which I think that's very interesting point, right?
Huh.
So let's talk about accountability of the refs. Refs can be fined for misapplying the rules, but not for making the wrong call, or if a call they make is overturned in a challenge. They're not going to get fined for that. But if they misapply the rules of the game, they can get fined for that.
So when you say rules of the game, is this every singular game they're going to the refs before the game and saying this is the rules of the game? Or is it the whole season?
The whole season.
Okay.
Yeah. They're not saying, okay, it's...
Okay. I was like, there seems like this is not... What's the word I'm looking for?
Uniform or like fair?
Yeah, not fair at all.
No.
Okay.
It's not game by game.
Still
it's not
weird,
like
but
Alyssa Thomas is playing and she's very physical, so let him go. It's not like that. It's like, here's how much physicality we want in the game. Here's how much offense and defense we want. So keep that in mind as you're officiating.
Okay.
If a ref makes too many wrong calls, they may not be able to advance to a playoff game or a bigger game because of that. And game assignments depend on performance.
That makes sense, because in the playoffs / finals,
it's been the same people.
You see the same 3 refs. The playoffs, obviously, they split because 2 different teams were playing in the semis, but for these finals, you'll see the same 3 refs every time.
And in the W, officials are paid per game, and so they do have incentive to get the calls right because they will get more game assignments if they call better games.
Okay.
And so the league manages an internal website, the referee engagement performance system called REPS, and every single WNBA game is downloaded into this platform with analysis. So that's
what Cathy was referring to.
Exactly right.
So obviously we poo-poo on the refs all the time, along with everyone else, but it is cool to hear this research and know they're not just winging it, which I didn't think they were. Like, obviously they go through a lot of training, but there's a lot that goes into this.
Yeah, and it makes me have more compassion for the refs, but their job is to be consistent, and that's pretty much it. All the other stuff is created by this competition committee. So something to think about. But the WNBA does not have something that the NBA has, which is the last 2-minute report. And so in the NBA, the league has this 2-minute report for any games that are at or within 3 points during any point in the last 2 minutes of the fourth quarter or overtime when applicable. And within this report, they assess all calls and notable non-calls and then provide that at the end so everyone can see what happened in those last 2 minutes. So it's just like an accountability thing. There's no formal weight to it and it doesn't change the outcomes, but it does get published. And so like you could see that information. And the WNBA doesn't have that.
Why?
Because it would take more time and WNBA would have to invest more of its resources, and they don't want to do that.
It always comes down to money.
And a WNBA staff member said, from our perspective, we don't have any issues in owning up to our work, whether that's excellent work or acknowledging a mistake that was made in a game, which at this time is just laughable.
Yeah.
For me, it's like, why not invest in something that the NBA is doing that can ensure more player safety, right?
I don't know. I just don't understand why the WNBA and the NBA don't have the same exact rules.
Say more about that.
We're talking about differences between the refs and what's being done. And I'm like, there's so many differences between the NBA and WNBA. And I just don't understand, like, the NBA plays longer games, but somehow then the WNBA has the same number of fouls. And then the WNBA can advance the ball. Mm-hmm. That's not a thing in the NBA. The WNBA got rid of 1-and-1 calls. Like, I don't know. I just think there's a lot of differences. And I ask myself why a lot.
And you bring up a great point. So everyone starts in the G League, which is the NBA, which means it's NBA rules and it's NBA kind of format, which is a very different format than the WNBA. So we're expecting these referees, these officials, to go into the G League to learn the NBA as best as they can and then say, nope, you're going into the WNBA, and here we have a different set of rules, and we have this competition committee, and this is actually how we play our game, and get with the program and get out there and make a consistent call. That's a lot to ask for.
It really is.
On top of that, let's get into the pay, because a lot of the referees who referee in the WNBA also referee in the NCAA. And again, 2 different games with 2 different rules. Even the foul calls are different, where you have 5 fouls in the NCAA and 6 fouls in the WNBA.
Yeah. I was listening to Bird's Eye View. Sue, come on. I was listening to Bird's Eye View, and Ryan and Sue were also talking about the refs, and an interview with Paige Beckers came up, and Paige Becker said, in college, I had to learn to defend without fouling. In the WNBA, I have to learn to play defense while fouling.
Yeah.
Because 1, not as many are called. She could get away with a lot more. And she said this, and Ryan said it great. Like, Paige isn't coming into that conversation trying to be malicious, that she's just sharing what she notices while she's playing in the W, and she can get away with a lot more. And 2, you have an extra foul. So why not go a little harder? Because you have another foul to give. You know, when I played in college, you get 2 fouls in the first half, you're benched for the rest of the half. And it's because you only have 3 left and you don't want to use up all your fouls in the first half and be screwed at the end of the game. But when you have 6 to give, it's a whole different story.
That's true. Do you think that the WNBA should move to 5?
I'm not going to act like this was my own opinion. Again, Sue Bird made a great point, and she said the NBA plays 8 extra minutes, so they have the extra foul. The other rules in the WNBA are different. Why was that the one thing that they decided to keep for the WNBA just because the NBA has it? It really doesn't make sense. If they're playing the same amount of time, sure, the 6 makes sense, but they're not. The WNBA is playing 40 minutes just like they did in college. So why are they getting that extra foul? No, I agree with Sue Bird. No, they should not get an extra foul. It doesn't make sense. And it allows for more physicality, and that's when people start to get hurt more.
Exactly. I think from a player safety perspective, you just naturally continue with 5 fouls. If they were to go to 5 fouls, the people who would have to adjust the most are the people who have been in the WNBA the longest and are just used to that cadence. But the young ones are like, okay, I'll just go back to the way I was playing back in college on how I played defense. Yeah. Let's get into this pay a little bit. They're paid by game. The number that they make is between $1,500 for someone who's new and $2,500 for more of a veteran. This is less than they make per game at the college level. However, the WNBA does cover the refs' travel and hotels, while the NCAA does not. So something to keep in mind.
So it probably evens out.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
NBA refs are salaried, and they earn $150,000 to $550,000 per season.
Whoa.
They play more games than the NBA.
Yes.
If a WNBA ref officiated 40 games, which is the length of a season, at the higher rate, at $2,500 per game, they would make $100,000 a year.
So still a lot less.
Still a lot less.
I can see where that makes sense, because the NBA at the end of the day has a lot more games. So they're reffing a lot more than 40 games.
But they're not salaried. What's stinks.
Yeah, that's really tough.
And the WNBA says that they're not going to salary them because the WNBA season is shorter than the NBA. People work a various number of games, and the structure of the season would need to drastically change in order for them to start giving the salary option to the WNBA officiating, which again, when you think about the G League, you're like, of course, the better refs are going to the NBA than they are going to the WNBA because you're not going to get paid as much, and you're going to have to split your time between NCAA and WNBA and scrap this together.
Yeah, it's so difficult because the NBA do play double the amount of games, so I can see it from that perspective. And at the same time, you're never going to get the better refs there because exactly your point. You're not getting salaried, you're not getting paid as much, so that's not going to be their first choice. There's just some frustration behind that.
And we mentioned this before, but now these officials have to switch back and forth in between NCAA rules, WNBA rules. That's very hard to do when you're thinking about what their job is, which is consistency. So what do we think could happen here? I think there's a couple ways to improve the consistency of WNBA officials. One is giving them a salary.
Yeah.
Which we're like, can that happen with the lower amount of games that they play?
Can it be salaried and it just be less than the NBA because they're reffing less games? Can it be that?
Yeah, or just salary them and pay them and you're going to get better.
Yeah.
You're going to get better officiating. It might be worth it, right?
Yeah.
To salary them and pay them what they can make in the NBA, close to it maybe. We'll give them incentive and you'll get better officials.
Yeah.
The other thing is, I think with this back and forth, G League, NCAA, WNBA, like there needs to be consistency in how you're preparing these officials for the WNBA specifically.
Yes.
And if you increase the salary and salary the workers, maybe you'll want people who specifically want to be officiating in the WNBA.
Yeah.
And then train them on that, because that's where it seems like if we can increase that training, maybe the consistency will increase as well.
Yeah, that's a great point.
But as we mentioned, the refs can control their consistency, but they cannot control the physicality of the game because that is determined by this competition committee. And in this competition committee, it's like, okay, what are they gaining by the game being more physical? Why do they want a more physical game? What conversations are they having about player safety? Is this an example of the WNBA totally not understanding its fan base? Yes, we say we love the physicality in the WNBA, and I do. Do I love it at the expense of having some of my favorite players injured for half of the year in a 40-game season? Hell no.
Yep.
Hell no. Everyone wants to see Caitlin Clark on the floor. Everyone wants to see Brianna Stewart and Afisa Collier on the floor. And we were missing them for big chunks of this season. Mm-hmm. So I'm willing to give some of that up in order to see my favorite players playing. Are you?
Yeah, absolutely. It gets to a point where that's not adding to the game. It's literally taking away from the game, and we don't want to see that.
Yeah, and I'm like, is this competition committee like they think that the WNBA needs to be the WWE in order for ratings to be up? Do they like the fighting? And then I'm like, oh God, this just goes down this horrible rabbit hole where you're like, what do these people actually care about? And then you're wondering like, okay, Cathy Engelbert is part of this. And it's like, well, is it just a bunch of people who only care about themselves?
Yeah. And just to be clear, we're not saying, oh, they're just as physical as the NBA and that's not okay. We're saying many coaches, Becky Hammon, who coached in the NBA, are saying they would not allow this in the NBA because they would be fighting. So we're not saying we want it to be any different than the NBA. We're saying we want it to be as consistent and as well reffed as the NBA.
Actually, I don't want it reffed like the NBA, because in the NBA, I feel like no one's playing defense. It's kind of a free-for-all. It's not as exciting. I want it officiated like NCAA. Mm-hmm. That's what I really want. I think that officiating is great. I don't think it's great. Come on. I never think officiating's great. But I do think it's a proper balance between physicality and making sure that people aren't getting hurt. And I think you can convert that to the WNBA and still, it's not going to mess with the viewership because, like I said, we want our favorite players in the game.
Yeah. I'd be curious to hear what you all think. If you have opinions on the refs or any of this research, if it was surprising or you just have any thoughts, send it to us and we could read it in the Les and share more opinions.
Oh, yeah. And who is on this competition committee? That really blew my mind.
Yeah, we got to figure that one out.
So let's get into what we're looking forward to this week. Danielle, what do you have?
I am looking forward to tonight. Game 3 of the WNBA Finals, Wednesday, October 8th at 8 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. And then on Friday night, we will have Game 4, Friday, October 10th at 8 p.m. Eastern on ESPN again.
And if it's a sweep, baby,
Oof.
Las Vegas is going home with that trophy.
Now I'm rooting for Vegas to win it all. I don't want it to be a sweep. There's no fun in that.
It's called a gentleman's sweep when I think that's what it's called when you let them win one. Like when you let it go to 5.
Oh, I hope for the excitement piece that the Mercury can win a game or two here. So we'll see. What are you looking forward to?
Let's talk about some college volleyball. Wisconsin takes on Penn State on Friday, October 10th at 7 p.m. Eastern time on the Big Ten Network. This won't be at Wisconsin where there are so many fans. It will be at Penn State where there's bound to be a lot of fans as well. So tune in to that match.
Awesome. That is it for this week. We will see you next week on Women's Sports Weekly. In the meantime, watch women's sports and share the podcast with your friends. Rate and subscribe to the pod on Spotify, Apple, and YouTube. Thanks for joining us.
Bye.